Lesser known facts about Jeepers Creepers. There was a severe drought in iconic horror villains after the likes of Freddy, Leatherface, and Jason, who ruled through the 80s. Thus, the horror fans welcomed Jeepers Creepers with considerable excitement because it brought them a new antagonist worth fearing. The monstrous entity was a terrifying flesh-eating creature that went on a hunt for 23 days after every 23 years. The purpose of the hunt was to steal human organs from slain victims, and it was a concept wacky enough to get invested in. The director, Victor Salva, impressed everyone with his innovative horror flick, and the cast, comprising the likes of Justin Long and Jonathan Breck, did not disappoint. One of the best things about the movie is how it manages to retain the tension created throughout the narrative, and the random selection of the victims leaves the viewers clueless regarding the real purpose of the monster.
You got 10 seconds to get your ass out of my yard.
However, discussion about the movie can be a subject for another day because today we will take you through the path less traveled as we bring you to the lesser known facts about the movie that make it all the more fun to watch. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. It was inspired by a real-life killer. There are multiple views regarding what actually inspired Victor Salva to conceive this unique horror flick. There are even some rumors suggesting that the movie is based on a true story or a very popular folklore that locals believe to be true. However, the director has actually clarified that it is entirely a work of fiction. Even then, in the first 20 minutes of the film, you will find a striking resemblance to an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. This episode was built around a mysterious murder of a woman who was allegedly killed by her husband. After the murder, the man dumped the body behind an abandoned school, and opening sequences share the uncanny details with this episode. Even some of the individual shots of the movie will seem similar to the TV episode, and there are no two ways about it.
You hear me? You take me! You fucking let him go!
The casting of Justin Long and Jonathan Breck fell in place perfectly. Jeepers Creepers has often been praised for the acting performances, and Justin Long certainly steals the show.
Who is this? How the hell do you know us?
You found its house of pain.
His casting in the movie, however, is quite an interesting story. Several people had auditioned for the role, but none really managed to make an impact. Most of these young men were more concerned with the false bravado and machismo that the director did not approve of. When Justin Long auditioned, there was something very natural about his performance. He seemed to be an effortless actor who could ease into some of the funny moments in the movie, just as easily as he could be terrified in certain scenes. Besides, Victor Salva was already very impressed with his work in Galaxy Quest, and he was immediately selected after the wonderful audition. The movie certainly worked wonders for his career because it made him a star overnight, and there is no looking back following this massive hit. Meanwhile, Jonathan Breck came for the auditions relatively unprepared, but it did not affect his performance one bit. He was asked to mimic the moments where the creeper hunted down his victims and sniffed them to check that they had the right body parts that he needed. Jonathan Breck was spot on in terms of his acting, and the makers were reportedly scared by how realistic he made things to be. Salva initially wanted Lance Henriksen for the role, but the audition impressed him so much that he selected Jonathan Breck on the spot. His successful audition stint is actually on record, and you can go ahead and check it out to see how terrific a job he did out there. The shooting conditions were extreme, to say the least. You can imagine the hardships that come with shooting under extreme weather conditions, especially if it's unbearably hot. The movie was filmed in Florida, and the heat really got to the cast and the crew. Victor Salva weighed around 400 pounds back then, and he had a rough time dealing with the heat. Jonathan Breck, in particular, found things impossible to handle with all the mounds of latex that were used as a part of the practical effects of the monster. If the heat was not enough, there were numerous insects on the site to add to their woes. The team had to take some drastic measures to get a hang of the situation. And then they resorted to firing a pistol before every scene to silence the noisy insects for some time. This enabled the sounds and dialogues to be captured properly and made things audible. All we can say is that the effort certainly bore some terrific results because Jeepers Creepers became a brand for creature horror. Creeper was based on a mythological monster. The infamous flesh-eating creature, the Creeper, is believed to be inspired by Spring-Heeled Jack, a Victorian-era creature which is a major part of English folklore. According to the stories, this was a skinny figure dressed in black who had claws for hands and red eyes. Spring-Heeled Jack got his name because of his ability to leap over large distances, which is something Creeper does as well. In the movie, we largely see the Creeper silent, this undoubtedly adding to his menacing and mysterious quality. But there have been a few indications to suggest that the creature was originally meant to talk. In one of the deleted scenes of the movie, the monster holds the corpse of a cat lady and says, "She don't smell too good," in a typical old Western accent. The makers felt that if the Creeper could talk, then it would make him less intimidating, and eventually the scene was deleted. However, a certain human side to the monster would have made a lot of sense as to how the Creeper knew how to wear clothes or drive a car. The abandoned church where they filmed has a mysterious story. In the movie, you might have noticed a small chapel above the Creeper's lair. It was shot in an actual abandoned church, and it's no surprise that the thing looks so realistic. It had been empty for several years, and Salva thought that it would be perfect for the set of the Creeper's hideout. The film was a huge hit, and the wide popularity meant that the abandoned church suddenly became a hotspot for tourist attraction. But after some time, the church burned down to the ground under mysterious circumstances. It was never really revealed what caused the fire, but it could be some of the locals who were irritated by the increasing tourist footfall. It could be also the work of miscreants who didn't want too many people visiting the secluded spot. Whatever the case, the story of the abandoned church certainly adds more color to the eerie ambience of the movie.
What do you want me to say? The gears are sticking! You're gonna break it!
Victor Salva was forced to edit some parts for the script. It wouldn't be fair to say that Jeepers Creepers was a terribly low-budget affair, but it was still not enough of what the director had in mind. Victor Salva arrived in Florida and realized that the budget would not be enough for his entire script. Thus, he had to edit out almost 20 pages of the script, and unfortunately, we lost out on a fiery climax that would have cost around $1 million to shoot. It was a sequence where the Creeper's truck would be driven directly into an oncoming train in a suicidal attempt to kill the creature, but eventually, the makers had to work around the idea. However, the budgetary issues were rewarded profusely at the box office, where the movie set new records back then, grossing around $38 million in North America alone in the first weekend. Jeepers Creepers comic book reveals further details about the creature. The comic series was released much later, but it did clarify some confusing bits about the creeper. The comic series was written by Mark Andrecchio, and the narrative followed a grad student named Devin, who was researching on certain myths and American folklore. This is how he stumbled upon the creeper and its mysterious origins. He traveled to Mexico City, and during his trip to the Aztec pyramids, he came across the dragon god or serpent god that demanded human sacrifices from Aztecs in order to be appeased. The later issues throw some more light on the creeper, and the creature is believed to have ties to the Native Americans. The comic series also explored the true extent of his powers and indicated that he was responsible for the disappearance of certain civilizations in the past. Makeup effects steal the show. Renowned FX artist Brian Panakis was responsible for the makeup effects and the monster designs, and this veteran artist has been a part of the industry for over 30 years. From smashing hits like Pirates of the Caribbean and Guardians of the Galaxy, his work has been acknowledged by the toughest critics. Brian Panakis has even been nominated for the Best Makeup and Creature Effects Award for his work on Jeepers Creepers, and a few years later, his brilliant work in prosthetics in Madman got him an Emmy nomination. It required a special effect to transform Jonathan Breck into the creeper, and it took around 7 hours for all the prosthetics to be done right. Even the actor was shocked to see the end results for the first time, and it is safe to say that Brian Panakis deserves a lot of credit for the maddening success of the movie.
What are you doing? Hang on! Just don't kill us, okay?
The creeper's truck was as crappy as you see it. One of the last sights of the movie was watching the creeper's creepy truck move around, but if you thought that it only appeared a jalopy on screen, think again. The truck was actually a rather disturbing machine in real life, and it had a particularly tricky exhaust system that did not work most of the time. This meant that while filming the scenes inside the truck, a lot of smoke would accumulate inside, and the doors had to be opened from time to time to let the smoke out.
I need you to please call the police.
The police?
We need help.
A little something about the roads and the Roadside diner. As we have mentioned before, the movie was largely filmed in northern Florida, and the script demanded an empty stretch of highway. Now, the problem was that the shooting location had a rather busy highway, which was never really deserted like it was intended to be. The makers had to resort to certain tricks to get the scenes right, and the director even had to get some of the locals to uproot their mailboxes temporarily to give the place a deserted look. The roadside diner that you see in the movie was actually a set specifically built for the scene. However, it looked a bit too real, and sometimes random travelers would walk in to get food and gas. It is commendable how the movie managed to make everything seem so genuine, even though it did not have the luxury of a massive budget. The Victor Salva controversy. This has been one of the most disturbing things about the Jeepers Creepers franchise. The series has 3 movies to date, with a 4th on the way, but Jeepers Creepers 3 ran into some trouble regarding one of its dialogues. Before we get into that, let's give you a little history on Victor Salva that might be troubling. He was convicted back in 1988 for the molestation of a 12-year-old actor for possessing objectionable videotapes. He served 15 years in prison, and later, he went on to have a successful career in Hollywood. Jeepers Creepers was a huge hit, and Victor Salva went on to direct the sequel, Jeepers Creepers 3. There is a dialogue that in a way justifies such condemnable acts, and he got a lot of flack for the inclusion of that scene. The obscene advancements of a stepfather were justified with the statement, "Can you blame him though? I mean, look at her." And it rightly did not go down well with the fans. However, all controversies aside, there's no denying the special place that Jeepers Creepers holds among the hearts of horror fans. The fans are eagerly awaiting the release of Jeepers Creepers Reborn, which is supposed to release later this year. There's been no announcement of a formal release date, but people are anticipating a spring release. Victor Salva will no longer be in charge, and Timo Vorsalana has been brought in to shoulder the responsibilities. It is supposed to be a reboot in the franchise, and the cast reportedly includes the likes of Sidney Craven, Imran Adams, and Dee Wallace. Do let us know in the comments below about the facts that appeal to you the most, and suggest to us the next thing you want a complete autopsy on. And if you like the content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe. Thanks, everyone.